Welcome to another edition of the Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals postgame pod, this time following a 35-34 heartbreaking loss here inside M&T Bank Stadium in Crab Cake City. This is a house of horrors, Skinny, mostly for the Cincinnati Bengals. And boy, Thursday night, national TV audience, another horror show by the Cincinnati Bengals. They had this one in their grasp. And the title of this podcast is Bengals Blow Another Chance in Baltimore. That was essentially the essence of the message from coaches and players after this game.
Yeah, I mean, a chance to get back to 5-5, a chance to get within a game of the Ravens, for goodness sakes, as you're battling maybe to get back into the playoff race. For all the world, this game was trending like it was going to be a season-salvaging win, and what a redemption game for the defense, especially the way they played for the first, two and a half quarters, I'll give it. Forcing the Ravens to punt on 5 of 7 possessions, and one of the other 2 they didn't was because the half ended. And it looked all the world like that was what it was going to be, and then it wasn't, because the defense became the defense we've seen at times this year against good offenses. Then Joe Burrow keeps making magic, couldn't quite make one more magical play, what turned out to be apparently a very controversial play, especially from the replay official on Peacock, or on Prime rather, from also Kirk Herbstreit, I guess the analyst, and even Al Michaels, the play-by-play announcer, all thought the Bengals got jobbed at the end of that game. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're allowed not to fumble the football like Chase Brown did. You're allowed to make stops as a defense. Yep. Cam Taylor-Britt had a chance to make an interception, couldn't quite secure the ball. I mean, you had your chances too in this one. And at the end of the day, though, now you've stuck yourself with a 4-6 record, and that's a huge hole to climb out of.
Well, to the point on the play and whether or not the Bengals could have gotten a holding call or a late hit, or certainly the holding on Tanner Hudson is what everybody was, I think, referring to.
Actually, I think it was on Gesicki on the other side too. Yeah.
So, Joe Burrow, after the game, in talking about the calls that did not go the Bengals' way, said, you're not going to get those calls in those situations, and we can't expect them. I thought that was pretty big of Joe Burrow to say that at that point. And, it's kind of reflective of him sending the message, good teams probably get that call, bad teams haven't deserved it. And Joe Burrow seemed very downtrodden after the game, more so than he normally. Look, Joe Burrow, win or lose, is a pretty quiet guy after a game. But I think there was some resignation to his tenor in this post-game address to reporters. And the fact that they had another double-digit halftime lead against Baltimore and couldn't hold on really has to stick in his craw.
Yeah, and both he and Jamar Chase addressed the following. I can't remember exactly the phraseology of the question. It was, it's hard to believe your record is what it is when, to Jamar, when you're playing at such a high level and Joe's playing at a high level. Joe was kind of asked something similar, and I think they both are actually confounded by that same question that, how is it that we are playing at this level and we're still 4-6? And that is what is so confounding. But it also shows you, I think, at the end of the day, we've talked about this a lot, just how many holes there are in this football team, unfortunately. And 2 superstars, they can overcome it some. They can certainly overcome it against the lesser teams. Last week it was Trey Hendrickson putting on his cape and Joe Burrow putting on his cape. Today it was Joe and Jamar Chase. And against the good teams, it's not enough. It is only a play here and a play there, but it's not enough. And I think that's the point we're at with this team.
Joe Burrow, let's go over some of the numbers in this 35-34 loss to the Ravens. He was spectacular, especially, I thought, in the first half, but even in the second half when he led a couple of drives when the Bengals needed touchdowns, not once but twice. He finished 34 of 56, 428 yards. He took 3 sacks, immeasurable amount of beating in the pocket.
13 quarterback hits, Mike.
Okay, there you go. Thank you for helping me out there, Skinny. That is untenable. You can't continue playing like that. But he did have 4 touchdown passes in this one, 3 of those going to Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase, 11 catches. He was targeted 17 times, 264 yards, just 2 yards shy of his career high. And he had the touchdowns of 67 and 70 yards 3 touchdown catches, as we said. Just a spectacular day for their 2 biggest offensive stars.
And it wasn't enough. I mean, that's
that's
the tough pill to swallow here. Is it was 2 spectacular plays, players making plays, and that's got to be the most frustrating part to this. Is you got some of your superstars doing superstar things, but the rest of your guys aren't. And then there's the handful of plays we talked about. There's the 3rd and 2 deep shot to Chase, which at the time I didn't mind it. I thought, okay, that probably signifies you're going to go on 4th down, and
Sure.
That's exactly what they did. And then confounding to take the deep shot to Jermaine Burton when Jamar Chase does clearly come open. I understand what Zach Taylor said after the game, that when we get our one-on-one opportunities, we're going to take them. That was probably not
there.
The right.
You don't.
Yeah,
okay,
not there. You don't. I'm with you.
The sticks.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And you can't defend that play. That's why I asked about it after the game. You asked about it. Paul Dehner Jr. asked about it. We all are like, okay, we understand, like you said, the 1 deep shot, but the 2 deep shots, when you have a chance to really, I forget what the situation, if it was 21-14 at that point, or if it was early 4th quarter. I forget when it was, but still, the game is in the balance, and they wound up turning the ball over on downs. That is a frustrating situation that you cannot have. I think it was early 4th quarter.
It was, and it was 21-20. It was the time after the Bengals had given up the lead, and they missed the extra point to tie it. The very next series, the Bengals got it down to the 34-yard line. 3rd and 2, the deep shot to Chase down the right sideline. 4th down, the deep shot down the left sideline. You could argue, do you kick the field goal there to make it 24-20? Again, I don't dicker with the decision to go for it. I really don't. Again, I don't dicker with the decision to throw it, maybe take your shot on the 3rd down, knowing, hey, we're going for it on 4th down no matter what this play does. Okay, that's fine. You're also allowed to maybe run it twice in that situation to get 2 yards too. So,
okay.
I mean, that was a confounding 2 plays to me.
Yes. Okay. And Joe Burrow was very fortunate in this game a couple of times to get the ball back. One was on the Bengals' final touchdown drive of the 2nd quarter when he throws a pass into double coverage. It's picked off by Brendan Stevens in the end zone. Double coverage, mind you. But fortunately, his right foot was half out of bounds, and that nullified the interception. Burrow was able to hit Jermaine Burton over the middle to the 3-yard line, and then Burrow hit Tanner Hudson for the touchdown, giving them what I thought was a momentum-building lead going into halftime. Then Mike Hilton makes a terrific defensive play on Deontay Johnson as the Ravens had no timeouts remaining before halftime. And you go into halftime thinking, okay, 14-7. Then you get the huge touchdown in the 3rd quarter.
After forcing another 3 and out.
After forcing another 3 and out, it's Jamar Chase, what we've seen often in this building, housing the Ravens secondary, and it's 21-7, and you're like, oh my God, they are actually going to pull this game off in Baltimore, like you said, right this season. And then it was the Chase Brown fumble, and to me, the most inexcusable play of the night, bar none. It's not Joe Burrow not throwing to an open Jamar Chase on 4th and 2. It's not Joe Burrow not throwing to Jamar Chase on the 2-point conversion. What Cam Taylor-Britt, Logan Wilson, and Geno Stone allowed to happen on Tylan Wallace's 84-yard touchdown, you don't see that happen in a Pee Wee football game, let alone a National Football League contest.
Yeah, and Cam misses the first tackle. That was.
But Logan Wilson pushing Wallace down the sideline. What are you doing? And that's where I think fans are like, okay, this defense isn't good enough. For a half, they played maybe above their level.
I thought they did. Yeah, I thought they were great in the first half.
And they did, and they played above their level. But when the team doesn't go out and address an obvious need at the trade deadline, fans are furious, and they have every right to be furious because the defense eventually did let them down when they needed it the most.
Well, what were fans screaming about at the deadline? They wanted some pass rush help, wherever that might come from, interior or edge. They didn't sack Lamar Jackson a single time tonight, and he is a hard guy to sack. I think we'll both agree with that.
Understood.
But they had one quarterback hit on him too, Mike. I mean, there was no pass rush night. In the second half, Lamar picked them apart, threw for over 200 yards in the second half alone. And in fact, Mike, we were even joking about it going into the fourth quarters. That first fourth quarter drive started for Baltimore. He was under 100 yards passing for the game and finished at almost 300.
Again, I want to go over the stat that you brought up. Lamar Jackson had one quarterback hit on him. Joe Burrow, 13.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable. And I don't know how, if you're the Bengals management, you take a look at that and go, sure, we have a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but.
Because here's why. And I answer this to fans. Here's why, in my opinion. They signed Sheldon Rankins. They believe in B.J. Hill. They drafted 2 tackles. So there's your 4 tackle rotation. You have Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson as your starting ends. They believe Joseph Osai is ascending, and I think Lou Anarumo told us this week. Again, I'm just telling you what they believe. And Miles Murphy's a first-round pick that you're not going to give up on in the second year. They're kind of stuck in a quandary. Should they have? Probably, because those guys aren't getting the job done. But do you want the egg on your face already of admitting Miles Murphy didn't work out so good for us?
See, fans are like, I don't care whether or not you admit you have egg on your face. Go out and help a team that has a chance to make a run. Would an edge rusher or 2, let's say, would an edge rusher and a cornerback, in terms of veteran leadership or veteran experience, have helped you in a game like tonight? Granted it's a short week, but would that have helped? Would that have sent a message to the defense? Yeah,
I would say this. I mean, to that point, how hard is it to tell a defensive end and edge guy go get the quarterback on third down? I mean, we're putting you in for these series. No fancy stunts, no fancy twists. You just try to come off the edge and go get your guy. Or if it's an interior guy, you go bull rush your guy and let's be done with it. I don't think that part's complicated at all. But I think us talking about it is you're just going to, and as a fan, you're just going to keep beating your head against the wall because it's not going to change. It just is not. And that's either the part you live with as a fan or you move on and become a fan somewhere else because it's just not going to change. And, you're kind of, you are wasting 2 great seasons. I mean, as great as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have been, this is arguably going to wind up clearly being, to this point of their career, their best seasons by a long shot, as goofy as that sounds, and you're wasting it.
Jamar Chase's agent tweeted during the game, and I know you're aware of this. The Jamar is only making I'm paraphrasing here, making my job easier in the offseason. And you know what? Jamar, he's right.
Jamar is he though? Because if it gets to a stratospheric number, are the Bengals willing to pay it?
Well, that's a great question. I think the agent believes that he is putting up such numbers and being a security blanket for Joe so often this season that if it weren't for Jamar, this team would have, let's say, 2 to 3.
No, I mean, but here's the point to that, Mike, and I get you. Here's the thing I would say though: you're 4-6 with these dudes doing this with all this stuff to fix. Is it really worth it to sign one guy to that mega contract when it's kind of playing out that these 2 guys are great, but if the rest of the team isn't it going to matter?
If you're in the NFL business, okay, Skinny, and you have the chance to have a superstar quarterback and a superstar wide receiver and keep them, which I think you do, and then build around them however you see fit, you have no choice but to do that. They're in your building. Let them go, Skinny, is malpractice.
If I trusted their drafts, I would say yes, where I knew I had more guys on rookie contracts that would wind up playing good football for me. I don't trust that fact. And then again, when you start looking at the money factor of it, do you have enough money in this offseason to go rebuild your safety room again? Go get a veteran corner, which you need. Probably have to find a replacement for your slot corner in Mike Hilton. Find another interior pass rusher and probably another edge. That's just on that side of the ball. Never mind your guard-to-guard crap fest on offense that you have going on right now.
Okay. Zach Taylor was asked about this after the game, and he acknowledged that Joe Burrow took the 13 hits, went to the ground probably more in this game than any other game that he's played. But Zach defended his offensive linemen, saying, when you drop back that often and
It's
you
true.
have the game plan we have, it's going to look like Joe's under constant pressure. But that was part of the game plan coming in to allow Burrow to move around in the pocket, and he's going to expose himself to those hits. Your response to that?
Yeah, no, and I think that's true. I mean, that's the thing I think that a lot of times does get overlooked. That this team drops back so often that you are going to expose your quarterback more often, and so it's harder on the offensive lineman to hold up. But my goodness gracious, on the 2-point conversion, Alex Kappa just has a guy run right through him. That's the play that's obviously become the controversy, because then that player ends up hitting Burrow and grabbing the face mask and hitting him in the head. So that's a penalty that should have been called. But again, he gets manhandled on that play, and that's that snap, and it was a quick play too. That's the other. It wasn't like you asked him to hold up for 4 seconds because Joe's taking a deep drop and taking a deep shot. That ball came out of Joe's hands quick, and so some of this is on the offensive line to some degree.
What did you think of the 2-point conversion? Should that have automatically gone, or almost automatically have gone to Ja'Marr Chase?
Yeah, and the way Joe explained it, it sounded like Tanner Hudson was the first option on that play, and he's the first progression on that play. And so, Ja'Marr said he was open. I believe him. I didn't really get my eyes to where Ja'Marr was because it went so quickly to the pass to Tanner. But Joe said, I took my first progression, and that's the pass I threw. I didn't even look back to the backside. So to me, I'm probably figuring out a way to make Ja'Marr the number one option, even though you probably know they're going to gang up on him. Right. But at least you got to look at the game he's having. He deserves at least first crack at whatever you're going to do there.
Okay, we heard everybody hit on this theme. We've got to find a way to finish these games.
Yeah.
I think it's been beaten to death. This team just isn't good enough to finish games. They lost by 3 points in overtime to Baltimore. They lost on the road at Kansas City by 1 point. They lose on the road here in Baltimore by 1 point. At some point, you realize we're losing these games late because we're not good enough to finish them off. It's just that simple.
I agree with that, and I'm kind of writing a column along those lines. This game was kind of a microcosm of the whole season in that regard. You had some good with the offense. You had the defense finally crumbling like they've done in big games against quality offenses, and then you have a team that can't find enough plays to finish games. They're 0-5 now in games decided by 6 points or less this season. If you look back, and I looked it up, if you go back to 2021, which is Ja'Marr's rookie season, they were 5-3 in that year in games decided by 7 points or less. I'm kind of fudging this number because if you go to 7 points or less this year, they do have one win, that win up in Cleveland. But I did 6 points or less because it's more gaudy to look at 0-5. But they went 5-3. Right. Then that postseason in games decided in one possession games, they went 3-1, losing only the Super Bowl. The next year they go. I take back, they were 4-4 in 2021. Then in each of the last 2 years in one possession games, 5-3, 5-3, and all those things that have in common are playoff team, a team that made a late run to the playoffs, just came up a little bit short. And I mean, take 2 of these one possession games this year that you've lost at 0-5, make them into wins, and instead of being 4-6, you're 6-4.
Well, not only that, you're 6-4, and let's say those 2 wins are against Baltimore.
Right.
I mean, 2 games you had Baltimore down and out and beat.
Double-digit leads in both, multiple times.
Those 2 games, and then Baltimore is 5-5. You are 6-4. We're having obviously a totally different conversation. But then again, if and buts were candy and nuts, the old Don Meredith line from Monday Night Football, every day would be Christmas, and it is anything but Christmas with these Bengals.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't know where the answers come from. Can this team literally pick itself up? Because this was gut punchy to me. This was, I mean, like I said, this was trending towards, a season salvaging win. What a redemption tour for the defense. Finally, against a good offense, they slowed them down enough, or even at times in this game dominated. And it flipped, the script flipped completely to what we've seen so many times this year. And now you have to close things up before the bye, going on the road to a Chargers team that would be in the playoffs if they started today. You do have winnable games, though. I mean, I don't think that's a game you can't win. They've proven they can play toe-to-toe with anybody. But then again, can the defense finish? Instead of giving up 4 straight touchdown drives in the second half, could they get one stop? The offense, Could it not turn it over up 21-7 deep in their own territory and give the Ravens a short field? Could somebody make a tackle on the dude running up the sideline and couldn't do that? I mean, and then could you get a call, get a break, or you just convert that 2-point conversion, and then it's a completely different conversation of what a gutty comeback it was after you blew the lead a couple of times. You found a way to win by making one play at the end, but that's the season in a nutshell, man. They just can't make that one play when they have to make it.
Non-playoff teams, non-playoff organizations lose games like the Bengals lost here Thursday night. It's frustrating. We've beaten this subject like a dead horse this year. I want to go over a couple more stats.
Sure.
The Bengals tonight in red zone efficiency, 3 for 3. Goal to go, they were 2 for 2. They had 27 first downs to Baltimore's 20. Obviously, we all knew what Zach Taylor was going to say in the postgame. It's a game of turnovers.
And was it a game of? It was a game of a turnover.
It was a game of a turnover, and more than that being a key moment in terms of allowing them to score a touchdown, the momentum of the entire game shifted. It wasn't just the 7 points that Baltimore scored. It was how the game shifted from there. I want to continue with the stats. We told you 428 yards for Joe Burrow passing, 264 receiving yards for Jamar Chase, and 52 yards receiving for Chase Brown. And when you look at everything, and
how about the number 5, Mike? What's the number 5?
What is that, Skinny?
Jermaine Burton targets tonight.
I am. Are you surprised by that?
No, because I think
I thought it would be higher. To be honest,
did you really? Okay, I wasn't surprised. I think it might have surprised some people that he played that much. To be honest with you, I mean, after all the stuff that's going on, but I don't.
It should have been 4 targets, but that's okay.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that 4th down pass was a very poor decision. There were Anyway, you see all of those gaudy numbers that I just rattled off, and you still lose the game. That, to me, speaks volumes about what winning teams do who lose a lot of the statistical battle. They play a horrific first drive. The Ravens made 3 different mistakes on the first drive that cost them not 1 but 2 first downs. They couldn't call a timeout at the end of the half, and you're thinking, wow, the Ravens are making the mistakes tonight, and they look like the team that was nowhere close to being ready to play on Thursday night, whereas the Bengals came in, they took advantage of their opportunities, but the Bengals just simply couldn't finish this one off.
Nope, and that's where we're at, man, 4-6, and the hole to dig out of. I mean, you probably I'm not so sure if this is in a year that 9-8 could get you in, and there's the Chargers game could be an important game if you get to that with a tiebreaker. Maybe the Denver game, certainly the 2 games with Pittsburgh, because they're about to hit a real rough patch in their schedule, and what looks pretty right now at 6-2 leading this division probably isn't going to wind up that way for long. If it does, kudos to them, but I just don't see that taking place. I mean, we talked about wiggle room. Your wiggle room is about up. You probably got about another loss, maximum of 2 in you. And you do play a winnable schedule, in my opinion, from here on out. But just the whole, can you finally make those plays? Are you good enough to make those plays against good teams? This team has proven it's simply not.
Is this Bengals team soft?
I don't know.
Mentally.
That's a great question.
In big moments, can this team not handle the responsibility of executing their assignments? Because to me,
maybe
when I look at them closely, I see them making too many mental mistakes as well as the physical mistakes, and I think it just costs them. To me, the Burrow decision on 4th and 2 was a monumental mistake.
Yeah,
because it gave Lamar Jackson the ball near midfield,
right,
when all you needed was a 2-yard check down pass or run, whatever, 2 yards.
If he was patient, Jamar Chase was coming wide open crossing. He was wide open crossing. And you could see Jamar after the play, he just stood there like, dude, it's me. I'm here. I was open. And instead the ball goes down the sidelines. I don't, but see, I wouldn't call Joe Burrow soft mentally, right? Or even soft in any trait. I don't think that was a soft play. It was a bad decision, in my opinion.
Skinny. I meant
okay.
I meant overall. Where do you put the level of blame on Zach Taylor in this game?
Not all that high because I don't think, again, you make a play call, right? And part of the play call is for a guy to go deep. And if you think you got your one-on-one like Joe thought, then that's where he probably wants to go with the ball. But again, that's be situationally aware. I mean, maybe you could argue the softness is on 3rd and 2 that you're going to go for it on 4th down. And again, I think you and I both agree. I don't have any qualms with them going for it on 4th down. But you're allowed to run the ball twice to try to gain those 2 yards. Maybe that's where the softness is you don't believe you're tough enough to carve out 2 yards.
All right, what are you working on, Skinny, post-game?
Yep. Well, obviously this podcast for one thing, and then I've got a column that I'm probably about halfway through. I'll have it up by certainly by the time people are probably watching this and listening to this podcast, kind of about how this game was a microcosm where, again, you just didn't make enough plays. The defense crumbled against a good team, and you just haven't found ways to finish. And there's a lot of good quotes from Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase et al. About kind of some of those things. And, if you'd have told me Jamar and Joe were playing this way, I would have never believed 4 and 6. I think that's what Jamar said. He goes, you could have told me that a million times. I wouldn't believe it. And unfortunately, that's where they're at.
All right. I'm writing on CLNS.Cincy.com. 2 plays define a bad team.
No, good call.
And obviously, Chase Brown fumble changed the momentum. And that play down the left sideline for the 84-yard Wallace touchdown is so inexcusable. You don't see it in Pee Wee, let alone the National Football League. It was inexcusable.
I could give you a 3rd because 3 is always the magic number, Mike. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It wasn't an easy play, but Cam Taylor-Britt probably should have intercepted that ball too.
I mean, he's diving. He did a great job of reading the play. He probably should have caught the ball. And I asked him after the game, did you think you had that? And he said, as I was going to the ground, I had it. And then I just couldn't squeeze the ball, and it popped loose. And I knew they were going to see it. I tried to, sneak my way off the field, but I knew replay was coming, and I was pretty sure that they were going to overturn that. But winning teams make winning plays. Losing teams make losing plays.
That's exactly it.
That sounds like a lead, Skinny.
Sounds like a good lead. I've already written mine, but I like that lead. I like your lead.
Well, it's a good lead for me.
Yeah, there you go.
You have your have most of your work done.
Exactly. I like your lead.
Begun.
I'm not going to steal your lead. You take that lead, Mike.
Okay. Skinny, thanks for joining me. Of course, follow Richard Skinner on Local 12 Skinny and local12.com. He has you covered when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals. In terms of my content, you can follow me on the X at Trags, Trags. You can also follow me at CLNS Cincy with a Y.com. And of course, as always, this Jungle Roar podcast. If you're watching this, you probably already know it. It's youtube.com/@Jungle Roar Pod. The final again here inside M&T Bank Stadium as the Bengals fall to 4-6 on the season. It was the Ravens 35 and the Bengals 34. Until November 17th from Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium, I'm Mike Petraglia. He's Richard Skinner. Have a great day.